Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TechHub.Training Solutions. Today I'm going to show you the solution to the Python Learning Path Challenge tax array functions. So let's go ahead and dive in. Here we have our code. So here's our beginning square where we're just going to download some of the income levels, tax rates, and sample incomes. The point of this challenge is to take this information or any information you might be given regarding income levels, tax rates, and sample incomes and generate how much someone would pay in taxes, as well as generate a way to get those bracket sizes and get the amount of taxes people are paying in each tax bracket. So the first thing we're going to want to do is build a function to get those bracket sizes. It's important to notice here that these are numpy arrays. They're not just regular lists. So when we're building this function, it'll take this argument income levels, and that's going to be right here. So these are just the tax brackets themselves, essentially. Um, and what we're going to do is we're copying that. We're going to call that bracket sizes. It's a little tricky, and I want you to notice that we're using np.copy. We're not just using the income levels.copy. It's np.copy, and the argument it takes is the array that we're copying. The reason why we want to do that is we want to keep it to be a numpy array, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Next, we're going to add a 0 at the front, so we just use insert. We put the position in, and we put the number that we want in there, so that's a 0, pretty easy. And then we're going to want to delete the last entry as well. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're going to subtract them. We're going to subtract bracket sizes from income levels, and we want them to be the same size. And since we inserted a 0 here, we want to delete the last number. The reason why we're subtracting them is we're just going to want to get a sense of how big each one is. For example, this right here is 11,000. That's the first bracket. Then 44,725 is the next bracket. Well, there's a difference there of about $33,725. So we want to know the size of the second bracket, not just where it ends. So that's what this is doing. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And what we get is the size of each one. So the first one is 11,000 just because, right, it starts at 0. So anyone making money from 0 to $11,000 will be taxed at 11%, which we see here. And then the next one's size is 33,725. So if you're making 44,725, you'd have $11,000 taxed at 11%, and you'd have $33,725 taxed at 12%. So that's what that does for us. The next function that we're going to make is just getting those bracket taxes. So we're essentially just going to take this one that we just created, the bracket sizes, and we're going to multiply it by its corresponding tax rate. The thing is, we don't have a last bracket size, and the reason why is the last tax bracket is just anything above that $578,125, and so that goes on to infinity. And so what we're going to do is we're going to minus 1 from the tax rates numpy array, which it's taking that as an argument here. And so it'll take the tax rates and the bracket sizes as arguments. You don't need to copy it because we're not going to be working with a copy of it. We're just deleting the tax rate itself from it, and that's not going to change the actual tax rates variable up here because we're doing it within the function. So that's an important thing to note and something really handy about functions as well. So we're removing this 0.37 because that corresponds to any income above the $578,125. And we can't multiply infinity times 0.37, so that just wouldn't be a very helpful number to have. So that's why we're removing that one right there. And then we're going to take bracket rates equals the bracket sizes times the tax rates. Pretty basic thing here. When we run that, we get 1210, 4047. So essentially we're saying anyone with an income above $44,725 will pay $1,210 and $4,047 and however much money they have above that 44,725 times the next tax rate, which is 22%, right? So that's great. And the next thing we're going to want to do, we have our function right here. We went ahead and built this function out for you. It's just a little complicated. We want to give you the time to learn. We don't want you to have to spend too much time working on really minute details, right now. So we did write this function out for you. It's just going to take all those first variables that we have, incomes, income levels, and tax rates, and it'll run the two functions that you created up above. And then it'll initialize a result list. It'll cycle through all the different incomes and calculate the tax for each of those incomes. And then this is the part that you're going to have to edit right here. Is right here we asked you to edit it so that it would append it in a list. And the reason why we want to do that is we want a 2D numpy array. And so we want basically a list of lists But a list of lists isn't a 2D NumPy array. It's just a list of lists. But when we have a list of lists, we can convert that to a 2D NumPy array. And you just convert that the same way you would anything. And because it's a list of lists, it'll be a 2D. It'll be a two-dimensional list instead of just a one-dimensional list because you have lists within a list. So when we go ahead and run this cell, what we'll get is the income and corresponding tax amounts for every income. And the great thing about these functions that we created here today is you can go ahead and copy these and save these in another file. And then if you ever want to do, any kind of predictive tax work or anything like that, these will actually work really well for that. You just input the income in a NumPy array form. You input what the brackets are. You can get those off the IRS website, and the tax rates for each bracket, again, the IRS website, and you can go ahead and calculate that. So it'll work for anything you want to do. So yeah, that's our challenge today. Thanks for joining us, and let us know if you have any questions in the comments.